And I spoke about that tense relationship with Michael Kugelman. He's with the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars. She spoke of the troubled history and commented on what, if anything, can be done to heal the divide.
Well, I think it's very clear what the reason for it is. I mean, this is essentially a situation of an Indian government that has repeatedly vowed to take a very strict, hard policy against Pakistan. And there have been several terrorist attacks in Kashmir and in India over the last few months that India has traced back to Pakistan, and India hadn't actually done anything. India had failed to follow up its own vows to take some type of action. So I think India's government has been in a position where it needed to show that it was not going to sit quietly in the face of Pakistani provocations. So therefore this strike that India claims it carried out was really meant to send a message to an Indian audience, above all, that being that India is ready to respond and is ready to take robust action against Pakistan. And it was also clearly meant to send a message to Pakistan that India is not going to sit quietly in the face of these provocations.
I found a headline from September of 2013 when Narendra Modi was running for office, and it said, this is the headline, India's Modi promises a tough stance against Pakistan. Is he pretty much boxed into a corner? Does he have to flex his muscle because he has to make good on this promise he made a few years back?
So I would actually argue that when Modi first became prime minister 2 years ago, he actually tried to reach out to the Pakistani government. He invited Pakistan's prime minister to his inauguration. And, the last Christmas, Modi made a surprise visit to Pakistan to meet the prime minister there. I think that India has been willing to reach out to the Pakistani government, but it now realizes that the Pakistani government simply does not have any power, because the Pakistani military has completely taken over policy when it comes to India. So I think now that Modi and his government have concluded that it no longer makes sense to engage with anyone in Pakistan, certainly not the military, because the military in Pakistan is strictly opposed to reconciliation with India, but also it's simply not seen as worth engaging with the Pakistani government, hence this harder line that we've seen India take over certainly today and over the last few weeks.
It's expected the Indian and Pakistani governments would play to their domestic audiences. Are there dangers there? Is there a way that they can figure out some way to diffuse the situation?
I really worry that this situation could escalate to a very dangerous point. The good news is I think that a war, an all-out war, is unlikely, simply because of nuclear realities. Both countries have nuclear weapons, and assuming cooler heads prevail, neither side wants a situation where you could escalate to the point where you have to worry about nuclear retaliations. But certainly the fact that there's so much saber-rattling, so much anger in both countries, on the street and in government, you really have to worry that the hardliners could really be whipped up. And in the case of Pakistan, you have to worry that some of these anti-India terrorists that are based there could try to stage more attacks inside India. I think that what we've seen over time, over history, is that when you have these major crises in India-Pakistan relations, eventually it's time, more than anything else, that leads things to calm down. When you had these wars in previous years, you didn't have nuclear weapons. You have nuclear weapons now, which means that there's probably not going to be an all-out war. So I think what we can hope for is that after each side has been able to posture more and blow off steam, make threatening remarks, things like that, I like to think that the situation will quietly calm down.